Oh man, I hope we didn't break the CPU. So this is a pretty special day for me. We're going to be building a gaming PC for my second son right here, who is now at the age that my first son was at when we built him his first gaming PC. So you're 8, your brother was 8 when we gave him his first gaming PC, and it's roughly actually almost 2 years since we did a PC build with one of my sons. So are you excited for this?
Yes.
So he has been working on like a laptop for all of the schooling that he's been doing, as well as all of the gaming that he's been doing at home. What games do you like to play?
Roblox and Minecraft.
And one of the things that he's actually been getting into a lot lately is making Roblox games, not just playing them. Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna beef up his system, get him to I would call this a good mid-tier PC. We'll go over all the specs, how much I paid for it, and the good news is I bought everything for this build within the last month, so you could replicate this one too in case you're interested. But first, we need to talk about today's video sponsor because they're helping to pay for all of this. My friends, today's UFD Tech video is sponsored by Bespoke Post. Bespoke Post is a monthly membership club delivering awesome boxes of top shelf goods from under the radar brands. And to help out during the COVID-19 crisis, they've purchased over $53 million of products just from small businesses. Their commitment to supporting lesser known small businesses right here in the US existed before the pandemic and will continue well after. And here's how it works. Every month they introduce their members to a cool new product: outdoor gear, barware, home and kitchen goods, clothing, and so much more. Sometimes even live oysters. And it's based on a preference quiz that you fill out. Their box lineup is constantly changing every single month. And every box has at least $70 in retail value, but costs only $45. And when you get a box assigned to you, before it's shipped, you'll get a preview of what comes inside to decide if you'd like to 1, keep it, 2, swap it for a different box, or 3, skip the month entirely for no charge. You only pay for what you want. And I've had my Bespoke Post boxes for a few weeks now, and they've been super easy to integrate into my life. The Weekender bag actually made it pretty easy for me to pack up and head to the hospital to visit my son this past weekend, which was great. The Forge knife has been great for cutting PC boxes like butter to open them, okay? I'm not like just randomly hurting boxes. And the concentrate box with its cold brew iced coffee maker made it so that I could still drink coffee even when my power lines got ripped out of my house last week. I wish I was making that up, but I didn't have any ice because the power's out and there was no ice in the freezer, but I was still able to get cold brew coffee, which is like I poured it into cold water that was coming out of my tap. It was great. Anyways, for you to get 20% off your first box, you can go to bspk.me/UFD20 or click the link in the video description and enter UFD20 at checkout. Again, big thanks to Bespoke Post for sponsoring today's UFD Tech video. So as I mentioned, I picked up all of these PC parts within the last month, and I think this is a solid mid-tier gaming PC build. It's not too high-end, so you're not getting spoiled with the latest and greatest, but this is a good starting point for him to build up on later on. So starting as the CPU, we've got the Ryzen 3 3300X. This thing has finally started to come back into stock. I picked it up for $129 on Walmart. And then the motherboard I picked up on an Amazon warehouse deal, and I got that for $75.34. The RAM, we've got a 16 gig kit of Crucial Ballistics running at 3600 megahertz, and I picked that up for $75. The SSD is actually something that I picked up a while ago, but you can buy it on Amazon right now for $97. It's a 1 terabyte Silicon Power NVMe SSD with DRAM, so it's going to be able to hold, number 1, all of his games. Number 2, it's going to be able to hold all of the games that he makes, and then if he needs to record videos, which is something that he wants to get into, he's going to have enough space for that as well.
Yay.
So the GPU is also something that I've been able to pick up recently, and it came in a combo with this Asus 450 watt power supply. So for both the PSU and the GPU, I paid $295, but there was a coupon on that to make it $290, and then there was a $20 rebate on that to make it $270. So a GTX 1650 as well as a 450 watt power supply for just about $280 is not a bad deal here in 2021. And then the case is also something that I got a pretty decent deal on. This is the metallic metallic gear Neo. It's black and white, and I was able to pick it up for $47.99, which is a great steal on what is a pretty decent airflow case. So all told, this PC is roughly $700, which is as good as I'm gonna get it here with all of the GPU shortages that are out there. And even though my first son got a build with an RX 580, this kind of matches that 2 years later as far as hitting that middle of the road spec. And we're also just gonna be throwing in a few upgrades, such as getting him some cable extensions so that it looks really nice. All right, well, it's time to go ahead and build your PC. So first off, we're gonna start off on the motherboard.
I have no idea how to build a motherboard.
Well, the good news is you don't build your motherboard. The motherboard already comes assembled, but you're gonna be doing all of it.
It looks very complicated.
Well, there's a lot going on. So right here is where the CPU goes, right here is where the RAM goes, right here is where your SSD goes, and then right here is where your graphics card goes. So everything goes into the motherboard and will allow you to just kind of work on everything, which is why it's called the motherboard, because it has everything under it. So the RAM goes in one of these slots here. Now, because we only have 2 sticks, we're gonna use the 2nd and 4th slot. So we need to open up those slots. Can you go ahead and open it up?
Which way do I push it?
You push it out. And then also for the 2nd slot, push it out. Now for this, you grab the RAM stick and you slide it on in. You see how I got it in the 2nd one, but then I got it in the 3rd one? Mm-hmm. That would break it. So we need to pick it up and we need to put it in the 3rd one. And then you can go ahead and push it down. So push it down on this side, straight down, not at an angle. There you go. Now you have to get it at the top. There, you did it. Now do it for the 2nd one. You're at a little bit of a disadvantage because you broke your arm recently, isn't it?
Yes. And
straight down. More, harder. Oh, you did it. Great, perfect. Now, let's go ahead and do the SSD. That's gonna be pretty easy for us to do. So we have to unscrew these 2 screws right here. Let me go ahead and give you
a screwdriver.
Yes.
Phillips head.
Phillips head screwdriver, that's correct. There you go. Just don't lose the screws, okay? All right, that looks like it's loose enough. And now get the other one. All right, now pull off that piece. Sweet, you did it. So this little guy slides in over here at an angle. So you're gonna go in like this. Mm-hmm. And you see it kind of holds up like that. Then you're gonna push it down. Try to use both hands in case you can.
In there, at the top.
Oh yeah, just be careful. Don't force it over a little bit. There you go, now push it in. Push it to the right. Oh, don't do it at an angle. All right, push it. All right, let go. Yeah, see, now it's in. Now you need to peel off this layer. There, you see how it's like a little blue film? There you go. That's good. So this is gonna allow it to cool the SSD properly. So align it on there. Yeah, hold that down. Perfect. Go ahead and screw the rest in. All right, so that's the good part. Now gets into the tricky we could break stuff part. Are you ready for it?
Yes.
All right. Way to be up for the challenge. Let's go ahead.
Why did you throw that?
Because we gotta get ready. Are you ready?
Yes.
This is the part where we have to be really careful. Open this gently, okay? Make sure that the CPU doesn't flop out.
I don't know how to.
So there's, you see, it separates it. Use both hands, please. Just be careful, don't pull too hard. We don't want it to flop open. Now we need to find, you see there's a little gold triangle down there? So that tells us that needs to match this triangle right here on the motherboard. So you need to go ahead, pick up the CPU, being very careful not to drop it. Now you're going to try to align that triangle with that triangle.
It's too slippery. I don't see a small golden triangle.
All right, the triangle is...
Oh, I see, it's super small.
Yeah, all right, let it down gently, let go. And then just try to wiggle it in and try to find where it sits. Don't push it, do not push it down. All right, that's not working. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Oh, we've already got some bent pins. You bent the pins. All right, so we're gonna have to fix that. So it looks like we have our first accident here on the corner right there. We've got some bent pins on this 3300X, which is not a huge problem. Do you see that? How they're kind of not in line? All right, I think I fixed it. I'm going to put it in now if that's okay.
Yes, that is okay.
All right, let's see. Oh, no, it's kind of still not going in. I wonder if I can just kind of force it in.
You said not to push it.
I know. But what I told to you and what I can do are two different things. So we're coming up to it not fully getting into the slot right there.
A lot of bent pins?
No, it looks like there's 3.
Oh.
It's not a big deal. We got this.
I feel like every time we put it in there, there will be more pins.
No, thankfully that's not happening because we're getting the majority of them in. We just need to make sure that these ones are actually straight. Good, let's try again. Not quite, we're almost, oh, there it is.
Yep.
I heard a click. It's not supposed to do that, but in this instance, it's pretty good. All right, let's go ahead and lock it in. The CPU is now installed. Good job. We had a problem. Things went a little wrong, but nothing that we can't handle, isn't that right?
Yep.
It's kind of how our life is, isn't it?
Yeah.
We encounter a lot of problems, but we find ways to make it through.
Like my wasp stings.
Your wasp stings, or your broken arm, or your brother being in the hospital, right? Like we find ways to make it through. And just because something goes wrong doesn't mean that we can't change our plans and maybe work on something else.
And that a storm just knocked down our internet and all our power.
Right, and I just made a different plan for work, but thankfully we're back online. We have power again. You just got, life throws things at you all of the time.
Yes.
And we just have to keep on working through it. So this is the cooler for the CPU.
Looks kind of like a graphics card, but a circle.
So the only thing that I want to do before we get to installing your CPU is turn it the correct direction, because what AMD does, for whatever dumb reason that I just don't understand, when you install it, the AMD logo is sideways. You see that? So we're gonna fix it so that the AMD logo is vertical and makes sense. And they make it so that it's a square so that you can reposition it. I don't understand why they don't just ship it like this. I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense.
It is weird.
Now we put the cooler on like this, and then we have to screw it in, which I'll get started for you, okay?
So clockwise.
Yes, good call.
Why is this so hard? It's tiring my eye.
Oh, careful. Don't stab the motherboard.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Now it's mounted the way it's supposed to. AMD, just do this from the start.
So we did everything that we could do outside of the case. Now it's time to work on the case and get everything set up for that. So with this, you need to be very careful, because this side right here, this is glass, so you cannot let it fall off.
Yeah.
So unscrew it. Now the glass is ready to come out. So we're gonna slide it out, pull it off, and I'm gonna set it aside so that we don't break it. Oh man, look at this. This is what they call non-modular. So all of the cables are included here. The only reason we're doing this was because it was affordable, right? This was a cheap bundle for me to pick up. So I'm gonna slide this in, and then I'm gonna get the screws started for you, and you're gonna go ahead and screw it in, okay? So the only thing I have to keep in mind, and you have to keep in mind if you ever install a fan in the future, is you wanna make sure that the air is blowing the correct way. So as I mentioned—
It's sucking in that way, and then it blows out that way.
No, the air is blowing out that way. So it sucks in from this way, and then it blows out this way. Okay, extra fan is installed. We've got that going now. It's time to install the motherboard.
The motherboard.
The motherboard. But, key step that gets forgotten a lot with motherboard installation is you have to put in the I/O shield, and then we just have to make sure which way it gets aligned, and then it gets put down here. So I'm gonna drop the motherboard in and make sure everything gets aligned, and then we're gonna start screwing it in. And you see all of these aligned properly here on the side with the I/O shield. And now we're gonna screw it in from the top, and that's what's in this box. They have all of the screws that we need. I'm gonna start all of the screws, and then you're gonna tighten them, okay? Remember, use the other hand to guide. Done. All right, motherboard is now screwed in. So now we have to do all of the cables. Actually, you know what? First we have to do the graphics card. So these metal contacts right here go into this slot. You see that? That metal slot. So you need to make sure that this lines up, and then you're gonna push it down in there. Actually, you know what? I've lined it up, you push it in. Just push it straight down. There you go. Graphics card's installed. So now we need to put the screws back. Let me get all the cables
All the way over where?
lined up, and then I'll show you where they go in. Okay, I'm gonna do this one because this one is really prone to breaking. So this is the USB 3 cable. So I'm just gonna go ahead and plug it in, because if it gets messed up, it breaks really easily. Oh, the audio fell out. Whoopsies. Okay, maybe you should push in the audio.
Well, I can't hear you. The audio is so loud.
All right, push it in. So you can see here that this is labeled. You've got power switch and reset switch. And then we just need to find where on the motherboard that goes. Sorry, this is the boring part of building computers, is getting all the cables properly set up.
And that's definitely why I'm yawning.
Now we can go ahead and do the cable
What are
extensions.
these for?
Those are just like ties to make sure that the cables don't fall apart. So this is for the motherboard. It gets plugged in right here. I'm going to do it partly, and then I want you to try to push it in and get it to click. Push it down straight.
Ow.
Yeah, cable combs, let's go. So these are just to route the cables properly.
Are cable combs like hair combs?
Sort of, like it's the same idea. It's so that your cables get managed, just like with a regular comb, your hair gets managed. Boom. All right, those cables are in. That's looking pretty good. These are just extensions. This is not where the power comes from. So you have to connect from the power supply to the extension. You see that?
Oh.
And then now it'll have power, and that'll be good to go.
Look
So
at that.
now all of the power's connected,
That big boy.
and it's technically ready to go. Like, if I wanted to turn this computer on, I could. All right, now all of these other cables can kinda, especially since we're not gonna see them, you just do what I like to call the squid stuff. You just stuff the squids of cables down back here. Maybe we could add a couple of zip ties. I think that looks pretty good, don't you?
Except that's sticking out.
Yeah, well then you just squid stuff it a bit more. I think your PC looks pretty dang good. What do you think?
I think it's done.
I think it's done too. We just gotta go ahead and put everything back on.
And put the screen on.
Yeah. And for the moment of truth, are you ready?
Yes.
You are gonna press the power button on your computer. It's that one. In 3, 2, 1. And it turns on, at the very least. Uh-oh. Uh-oh, it's saying CPU on the postcode. Uh-oh.
What does that mean?
So there, you see that light at the top? That tells you if something's gone wrong. And it might take a little while on the first boot. I'm hoping it's just taking a little bit because it's the first time. But that could mean that we broke the CPU. The only thing I don't like about this portable monitor is that it turns off very quickly. Hey, it works! Yeah! Woo! We got it. I don't know if they can see it on the screen at home, but it's ready to go into the BIOS. I just don't have a keyboard, but it works. We did it. We built your first computer. Do you like it?
It also doesn't have a mouse.
Right. Yeah, I'll take care of that later. Do you like your first computer?
Yes.
You enjoy it?
Yes.
Okay, so the only last thing to do is to peel the plastic off at the end. Yep, go ahead. And there we go. You have your very own desktop. Okay, well, now I'm gonna benchmark it. I'm gonna see how this performs, and we'll get back to numbers, and then after I'm done benchmarking it, you can actually have it, okay?
Okay.
Are you sure about that?
All right, I got some really bad news with my son's PC. I'm getting it set up to try to load Windows onto it, and unfortunately, something keeps happening during the Windows process where the computer just is completely shutting off. So I'm worried that we actually damaged that 3300X that's in there. So let me go ahead and show you guys what I'm talking about. I'll go ahead and try to install Windows. And as I begin to install it, this PC likely is going to turn off at some point. I've gone through this probably about 4 or 5 times, kind of tweaking things in the BIOS to see if it was RAM settings or something else that was making it a little unstable. And you can even see I took out a RAM stick right here just to have it so that it was one stick to try to make it more stable. And now, of course, as I'm filming, it looks like it doesn't want to do it, and it's gonna work. There we go. Okay, it died right there. It's just obviously resetting and trying to show me the postcodes for it to reboot. It goes straight back into the BIOS. There's nothing special that's going on. I think I'm gonna try to update the BIOS. I'm kind of scared because like the computer is shutting off, so that could create an issue with it like actually if it shuts off during the BIOS update, that could be a problem. But as I can see, the CPU temperatures are fine, the motherboard temperatures are fine. It doesn't seem to be temperature related. Everything's at stock, haven't overclocked anything. I'm a little concerned that we broke the 3300X. All right, I think it's rebooting into BIOS flash mode. If this doesn't work, I mean, I could suspect that it is the motherboard that's broken. I did get it from Amazon warehouse, so it is used. It could potentially be broken itself. But if this doesn't work, I continue to have issues. I'm gonna have to swap out the CPU probably for something else. But oh boy, this is not looking good, my friends. All right, we're going ahead and trying to install a BIOS update, which you can see it says do not shut down or restart the system. Let's see if it does. Oh man, I'm worried. You can see that the temperatures during the CPU install are totally fine. 44C is honestly not that big of a deal. It's not overheating. Oh, this is taking a lot longer than I want it to. I don't trust this computer right now. The BIOS that was in this PC though was from November of 2020, so it's pretty old. So I went ahead and updated to the latest stable one, not a beta one, which came out in June of this year. So hopefully getting a 6-month newer BIOS might actually get it to work. Oh man, I hope we didn't break the CPU. Okay, the PC just shut off. I don't know if it's because it finished or if because it died because I was working on something else since it was taking a while. Oh man, no, I'm really worried. Oh, last I looked, it was at 79%. So I'm gonna check the BIOS, see, this is taking a while, okay. All right, at least we're not dead. We're getting into the BIOS here. Is the BIOS updated? BIOS version 622.21. Okay, we're on the latest BIOS version. I'm gonna go ahead and try and install Windows again and see what's going on if it doesn't work. So if it crashes again during this next time to install Windows, I'm gonna swap it out for a different Ryzen processor that I have lying around, and we'll see if it's the CPU or maybe it's the motherboard that is potentially at fault here. Okay, it died again. I have this guy lying around, the 5600X. I can try to install that and see if that's the problem. The 3300X, gosh dang it. Oh, it was such a good chip too. It was the first time I got my hands on it. Like, I'm bummed because, like, obviously he didn't know. It was an accident, so I'm not upset with my son. I'm just, it was the 3300X. I've been waiting years for this. AMD didn't even release those and he was getting one. And oh, okay. I'm gonna install the 5600X and see if that fixes the problem. All right, there we go. 5600X installed. Let's go ahead and see if we have any problems with Windows installation. I'm not gonna change any settings. We're just gonna go ahead and try to load the operating system in, see how that works and how it goes. Okay, now the moment of truth. We're starting again. Let's see what happens with this PC. I don't think we got this far last time. We're at 60% on the files getting installed. So, if this completes, I'm gonna say it was definitely the CPU. That's Bork's. I'm gonna try off camera to put the CPU in another B550 motherboard that I have sitting right here, see if that potentially fix it, but we broke the 3300X. But he's getting a free upgrade to a 5600X, so good. I guess that's what you do when your dad's a tech YouTuber. If you break your PC, he'll just upgrade it for you. He has to work for the next upgrades. And I mean, he works a lot around our house and helping with our special needs kid in order to justify me doing this in the first place. But, oh man, I'm bummed. I've got some bad news for you.
What?
You know how...
The CPU chip broke.
Yes. So your computer is not working properly.
We need a new CPU chip.
Yeah, who's gonna pay for that though?
You.
Is that so?
Yes.
You think I'm just gonna give you a new CPU?
Yes.
Really? What makes you think that?
Because you would do this one.
Well, you're right. I put a new CPU in your computer already.
What?
Yep. And it's an upgraded one. So it's already working. We're good to go there. So this is the old one right here. This is a 4-core processor, and I upgraded 6 cores.
Oh.
So I upgraded you to a 6-core processor. So it was my fault that you broke that chip. I should have been more hands-on with helping you get it installed. But you're going to have a better computer than I initially thought. So it's a big sad moment though for the CPU. Can we press F to pay respects for this chip?
R.I.P.
All right, well now I need to actually get your PC set up and I'll let you know what's going on, okay? All right, love you, bud. All right, now I'm even more confused because the PC with the 5600X working totally fine. No problems there whatsoever. So I put the 3300X into this test bench to see if it would actually work, and now it's running at 100% usage, no problem, just doing a test mine to see if it works, and I haven't had any behaviors with it. It's working totally fine. I'm gonna load up a video game, maybe try to play a CPU heavy title like Valorant and see if it crashes at that point, but the 3300X works. The 5600X works. What was it doing? So I'm doing a test run of Valorant with the 3300X. They're getting 160 FPS. The CPU is at like 50% usage, 65 degrees Celsius, and it worked. Oh my gosh, I hate PCs sometimes. Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna keep the 5600X in my son's PC because, I mean, I'm not taking it out at this point, and I don't have any other use for it currently, so if I need it, I'll take it back. But what happens in life? Okay, I spent the majority of my afternoon troubleshooting this PC, and I'm still encountering the issue where the computer shuts off. The 3300X clearly wasn't the issue, because getting the 5600X in here has still been resulting in the issues. I also then decided to swap out the GPU because there was a video that I did recently on UFD Tech where I was having this exact same problem with my PC back there, and all it took was swapping out the GPU. So I did that, and I kept encountering the issue. Then I did the last thing that I possibly thought I could do, which was swapping out the RAM for something different, and now we're down to the last two components, which will make it a pain in the butt to actually swap things out, and that is the motherboard and the power supply. Considering the fact that the power supply was brand new, I'm not suspecting so much that it's that, but rather I'm suspecting that it's the motherboard, especially since it was an Amazon warehouse used deal, so it probably didn't come in the best condition, at least that's my guess at this point. But I think this is just a good lesson that even though I suspected the 3300X at first, just because it was the most obvious, doesn't mean that that was actually the problem. So I had to keep digging, and now we're here where this is gonna be a multi-day adventure. I need to go get another motherboard. Okay, actually, before we go ahead and get another motherboard, I forgot that I do have a few like spare power supplies lying around. So I hooked up this Rosewill 450 watt, kind of plugged it into the cable extensions. You can see that it's precariously being laid down there, but it should give me enough ability to test the system and see if it's actually the power supply before I go ahead and get the motherboard. There we go. Only had to press the button a few times. Looks like everything's powering on. We've got BIOS stuff. Is the GPU fan spinning? Yes, it is. We're good to go. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and test out the system with the new power supply, see if that resolves the issue. If it does, power supply needs to be swapped out. If it doesn't, then that means that I have to actually go get a new motherboard. But if it is the power supply, because I got it as a combo deal on Newegg, I have to return the GPU too. So that sucks. All right, I've tested everything. This is with the new power supply being installed. It just doesn't want to work. So I gotta go get him a new motherboard. That's what I get for cheaping out and buying a used one. Okay, finally, my son's PC is now done. It was the motherboard, that was 100% confirmed. So it wasn't the CPU, my son didn't brick it, and what I did was I swapped out from my benchmarking system, my B550 Gaming Plus, and I gave that to him because I thought it fit pretty decently with the color scheme. And then my pal Zach from Zach's Tech Turf, which you should totally go check out his channel, give him a subscribe, because he helped me out by helping me to replace the motherboard and make sure that I had one that was on hand to replace the one that I was going in my test bench, which is this B450 Aorus Elite V2. And so instead of my son getting a $57 motherboard, I had to spend $100 on this motherboard in order to kind of get all of that figured out. But the PC is done. Benchmarks have been run. I just kind of did a few titles of games that my son wants to play. Testing everything at 1080p because that's what his setup's going to be in. In Fortnite, we managed like 122 FPS at 1080p medium. Minecraft was like 300 FPS with 16 chunks at fancy graphics. It ran perfectly fine. Horizon Zero Dawn quickly averaged about 62 FPS, and then Roblox, which is the game of choice for him right now, ran at a static 60. I couldn't find a way to change the FPS limiter, but it was 60 average, 61% and 60.1%. This thing can handle Roblox no problem. But now it's time for him to see his PC and then for him to get it. That's all that's left. He gets his computer now. It took a whole weekend. It was supposed to take a day. All right, bud, your computer's done.
Yes.
But it wasn't the CPU, so you didn't break it. That wasn't your fault at all. We did bend some pins, but the CPU's still working. So since you had such a good attitude when I told you that something was broken, I'm gonna keep the upgraded processor in your PC.
Yay.
So you get the Ryzen 5 5600X, I'll keep the 3300X for something else, and you're gonna be able to enjoy Roblox and all of the games that you wanna play.
Now?
Soon. I have to get some thumbnail photos, but then it's gonna be
Okay.
yours.
Okay.
So, yeah, I love you.
Love you too.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching my first PC build with this guy. Big thanks to our sponsor for today's video, and we will see you in the next UFT Tech video. Why don't you go check out the last time I built a PC with my son, which was roughly 2 years ago.